Hey guys, welcome back to ProductNation, and in this video, we're comparing the Honor 9X with the Huawei Nova 7 5G. Now there's 1,000 ringgit price difference between both of these phones, but is there a 1,000 ringgit performance difference? Let's check it out in this video. Now the Honor 9X is a pretty decent performer within its price range. The performance to the price ratio is very on point with this, which is what I really appreciate from smartphones. So let's begin with the usual unboxing. The version that we got is the Midnight Black, 128GB storage and 6GB of RAM. The phone looks very similar to other Honor phones we've seen in the past with a triple camera setup. It also comes with a crystal clear case and the charging brick included, along with a USB Type-C for charging. Getting into the phone, you do have Google Playstore as well as Google services in addition to the Huawei app gallery. So if you want to use Google Playstore and all the Google apps, you have that option. If you want to use the Huawei app gallery, you also have that option. This isn't the same with the Huawei Nova 7 5G, where you're kind of restricted to the Huawei app gallery and there is no Google Playstore. So if you want to download apps, you kind of have to use the Huawei app gallery. For me, for example, I wanted to get Call of Duty Mobile, but I wasn't able to. I could just add it to wishlist, and that's kind of a bummer. With the Honor 9X, however, you kind of have that option to use the Google Play Store. For screen resolution, it offers HD Plus and Full HD Plus if you want to kind of customize your battery usage for the screen, or you can put it on Smart Resolution where it does it all for you. Great. The software it's running is the EMUI 9.1.0 with the Kirin 710F as its processor. In terms of build and software, the Nova 7 5G is running EMUI 10.1.1 right out of the box without any updates. The Honor 9X, on the other hand, is running 9.1.0 right out of the box. 9.1.0 does give you customization and full screen gestures, especially within the gallery app. I really like this. It reminds me of Samsung a little bit, where you scroll through to navigate through the video. Right side scroll up and down increases the volume. So if you scroll all the way up, you get max volume. Scroll all the way down, you get lowest volume. Same as on the left side. Scroll all the way to the top, you get max brightness, all the way to the bottom, minimum brightness. Very good. Now looking at the camera module at the back of both phones, obviously the Honor 9X is lacking a lot of those lenses, so the performance cannot be exactly compared. So obviously the zoom capabilities will not be the exact same between both of these smartphones. We're just looking at the camera comparison for the lenses that this does support to show you the image quality difference between the 1,000 ringgit difference between both of these phones. Before we get to the camera comparison, let's take a look at all of the specs offered. The screen on this is a 6.59-inch LCD display. That's right, not OLED, not AMOLED, it's an LCD display, but more on that later. The battery on this is a 4,000 mAh battery, same as the Nova 7 5G. The fingerprint sensor is located at the back. It's fast, responsive, and snappy, as I talked about earlier. The processor on this is the Kirin 710F processor, which is not the greatest. It's on the lower end, and it's the same as the 710. Moving on, you have a pop-up camera, a mechanical camera if you guys are into that, which is a 16 megapixel f2.2, which records 1080p at 30 fps. The camera is located at the back as a triple camera setup, 48 megapixel, 8 megapixel, and 2 megapixel depth sensor. Now the images on the left are from the 9X and on the right are from the Nova 7. As you can see, the HDR performance on the Nova 7 is a lot stronger. The colors are more vibrant on the Nova 7 as opposed to the 9X, but the 9X looks very natural and true to life kinda, except for that HDR is a little bit weaker on the 9X. But if you look at the colors, the Huawei boosts them a lot more than Honor. Honor looks more true to life. Even the sharpening done on the Honor is a little bit lesser compared to the Huawei, and the colors are more true to tone. Shooting at the Pro mode, you guys can clearly see the performance is almost exactly the same, except that Huawei seems to be a little bit more vibrant and punchy. Let's take a look at that mechanical pop-up camera. It is slightly slower than the ones we're used to, and the pop-up speed is a little bit slower than I was hoping for, but it does perform pretty well in terms of image quality. Looking at these comparison shots, the Huawei Nova 7 background blur is a little bit better, but the 9X looks balanced. Moving on to this 48 megapixel shot, that's how much detail you retain when you shoot at 48 megapixels. Two of these shots are taken at 48, and then you can zoom all the way in or out depending on how you want to crop the subject. By default, it's a 12, but you can enable 48. This is the aperture mode and portrait mode side by side, and you can control the customization of background blur. So this is the back camera recording 1080p at 30 fps with the ultra wide angle lens. As you guys can see, the HDR performance isn't absolutely brilliant. It's not really the greatest, but you can see the color rendition and sharpness is very Honor and Huawei-like, kind of. The colors seem a little bit dull, and the image stabilization isn't really great. As you guys can see when I'm walking, it's kind of fluttering and moving all over the place, and the exposure just kind of moves around a lot. HDR performance isn't the greatest, but it's pretty decent for a back camera recording at 1080p 30 fps with the ultra wide. Now let's switch over to the 1x lens. Switching over to the primary lens, that's what the image performance looks like. Unfortunately, there is no stabilization from what I can see. As you guys can see, when I'm walking, it's wobbling all over the place, no matter how hard I try to hold it steady. HDR performance, same as the ultra wide. You can kind of see that it's struggling a little, especially look at the edges of the leaves. You can see that white halo sort of, and the color rendition isn't the best, but it isn't the worst I've seen either at this price point. 1080p performance, sharpness wise, looks pretty decent. Colors wise, a little bit desaturated. Sharpness, I would say, is a little bit extreme, but yeah, that's what the image performance looks like from the back camera. So this is the video performance coming out from the front camera on the Honor 9X, and that's what it looks like, and the sound as well is coming directly from the phone. That's what it sounds like. We just switched from the Huawei Nova 7 5G, so you can see the difference and comparison between 4K and 1080. For the front camera on the 9X at this price point, this is pretty good performance in terms of HDR and how it looks in terms of sharpness. It looks pretty good to me on screen here, but we'll have to see that on the laptop later. 1080p on the front camera is pretty decent at this price point. You don't really need 4K. This one kind of overdid it with 4K in the front camera, but that's what it looks like with 1080p in the front camera. Now the screen on the 9X isn't an AMOLED or even an OLED, it is an LCD panel. Just hearing LCD alone can turn off a lot of people from getting this phone. However, when you use the phone in day-to-day usability, it is actually pretty decent. You don't really see that difference apart from that glow off of the screen that LCD phones usually have. You don't have that true black tone to it, so you get that reflection a lot more than OLED and AMOLED. But otherwise, it's a pretty good looking screen. Let's take a look at the screens side by side between both these phones. Looking at it this way, you don't really see that much of a difference. However, depending on the lighting situation, you can actually see that clear difference when it comes to the blacks in the image and the contrast levels. As you guys can see, the phone at the bottom is the Nova 7, at the top is 9X, and the Nova 7 looks a little bit punchier when it comes to clarity and that contrast, just because the blacks are truly black as opposed to the 9X, where it really isn't. It's an LCD panel lit from the back. So the OLED performance slightly outshines that one. But when it comes to the 9X screen on its own, it performs really well. Even in direct sunlight, I didn't have any problems looking at the screen. Next, let's move on to the performance and gaming capabilities on the Honor 9X. Now, using it for my day-to-day tasks and the usual games that I play on it, I didn't see any degradation in performance over time, or even as I was playing it, I didn't see any drop in frames, anything of the sort. I tried Asphalt 9 and Call of Duty Mobile. However, on Call of Duty Mobile, I was kind of restricted to using low graphics, and there was no other way to increase it even in the settings. The max graphic quality was low and frame rate was medium. I even tried it on the Asphalt game that I used on Nova 7 to compare the graphics. It did seem like when I turned up the graphics all the way to the max on the Huawei Nova 7, it had no issue in Asphalt, but using that on the Honor 9X, I did see a little bit of lag, a little bit of stutter as compared to the Nova 7 5G. You've got the 48 megapixel camera, you've got that massive screen in the front with no interruptions, no notches, no cutouts, and a pop-up selfie camera. You've got a fingerprint sensor dedicated at the back of the phone that is lightning fast, 4000 milliamp hour battery, extendable storage, dual SIM cards, headphone jack, USB Type-C, decent speakers, nice feel to it. Feels good in the hand, not very cheap feeling. So all in all, this phone is really great for the budget you're going to be spending on this. Now there's also a Pro version of this out in the market right now, the 9X Pro. We're going to be linking that in. There's a promotion going on for the entire month of July, so definitely check that out. We're going to be linking it as well. So that's about it, guys. That's our review of the Honor 9X. Really hope you enjoyed it. Quick comparison with the Huawei Nova 7 5G. If you want a full video on this, we're going to link that up as well. We did that earlier. Really hope you enjoyed this comparison. And if you have any questions or thoughts on this video, do let us know in the comments so we can get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you again in the next video.